that point maybe that one time you sat at the feet of Jesus. Maybe one time you felt His warmth and His fire all over you. And
come on, listen, Lord.
Man, things are great. It's so good. You feel His presence so strong. And then maybe you begin to sort of wander and drift a little bit, and you find yourself so far away from God that all of His goodness, you remember it, but you're not experiencing it. You're not feeling it. You know He saved you. You know He died for you. You know He's real. You know He loves you. But you've got so far away that doubt begins to come in, and you don't really know what you want to do. I've been there. I've been there. I've experienced that. I got saved, and I fell in love with Jesus. And things in my life were so good, David. And I got drafted. Things wasn't too good. And not being a real grounded, seasoned Christian, I blamed God. I thought God was doing me wrong, Teresa. Because I had to leave my wife, my son, and go to a place that I really didn't want to go. And I got so angry at God. I knew He was real. I knew He saved me. But I was mad at Him. And I purposed in my life, I didn't want anything to do with God. And during this time, I can't even begin to tell you the dangers that I went through in Vietnam, and God miraculously spared my life. But I was still mad at God. Didn't want anything to do with Him, Ashley. Didn't like God. It was more than I turned my back on Him. I didn't even like God. And when you get to that condition, you want everybody else to be like you. You don't want nobody to like God. And there I found myself. Used to sit at the feet of Jesus. Used to love to read His Word. And now here I am. I ain't going to church. So far away from God that it's pitiful. But He loved me, David. Even though I would mock Him, tell Him I didn't like Him, He loved me. Why was He patient with me? Why did He spare my life when He could have snuffed me out just like that? But He loved me. And one day a calamity come in my life. And I blamed God for that calamity. And I told Him. I knew God was real. There was no doubt in my mind. I had experienced the good things of God. And I said, I guess you've done it to me again, God. You've let me down. Real belligerent. And He spoke to me, Teresa. He said, no. No, I didn't let you down. You let me down. And I said, why, how about that time when you took me away from my family and I had to go to Vietnam? He said, I had a job for you to do over there and you didn't do it. I fell on my knees right there, Teresa. And I repented and I got back to the foot of the cross. I got back to the feet of Jesus. And I found I don't ever want to go out there again. Because it's such a lonely place to be. God's so good to us. Let's give the Lord a hand clap. I might just settle down here. Amen. Where's my baby at? All right. I'm looking for the baby. How many of you in this building have ever told a lie? Is there anybody in here that can hold up their hand other than Weston back here and say, I ain't told a lie? Can. It's the first, he can't talk, that's why he ain't told a lie. When he learns to talk, he'll probably tell you one day. Anyhow, we're going to move on. I want to talk to you a little bit about lying today. One time there was this guy, and he bought this parrot. Now, this was a beautiful bird. I mean, it was nice. Beautiful. Everything perfect about the bird. Pretty good bird. Except when company come around. When company come around, the bird's language changed. It was no longer hello and hi. It was cuss words. I mean, he could cuss for 5 minutes and never repeat himself. Well, it really embarrassed this guy. And he said, grab that bird, said, now you're going to have to quit this cussing. That bird said, I promise you I won't do it no more. I ain't going to cuss no more. Well, the next day, the pastor of the church comes by, and that bird just lets it all blurt out again. And that guy grabs the bird, and he said, you told me you wasn't going to do that no more. You promised me. Well, I promise I won't do it again. Next day, it was the same thing. He finally got so angry, he grabbed that bird and started shaking it like that. Quit that lying to me, and quit that cussing. That bird said, yeah, I promise you, I won't do that no more. Well, the next day, some ladies from the church come by. Oh, man, you talk about really embarrassing the guy. That bird really let out a string of it that day. He got mad, took that bird, put it in the kitchen cabinet, shut the door. That bird started pecking and making all kinds of racket. And it finally settled down. He let that bird out. And it started that cussing again. He said, you got to quit that cussing, and you got to quit that lying to me. That bird said, I promise I won't lie again. I won't cuss again. Next day, it was the same thing. By then, this guy's fed up with it. So he takes that old parrot, opens up the freezer, slams that bird in there, and shuts the door. That bird, it squawks and squawks. About 5 minutes later, though, that bird gets real quiet. And he gets worried. Maybe I've hurt the parrot. And he sort of opens up the freezer door, and here that bird comes out, climbs up on his arm. He said, I promise you faithfully, I'll never ever cuss again. I'll never ever lie to you again. And that guy thought, wow, a change. And he said, I wonder what brought that change about. That parrot looked up at him and he said, I've just got one question. When I was in that freezer, there was a chicken in there. Now, what did that chicken do to you? See, now, sometimes we got to go through some trauma to understand we need to quit doing these things that we're doing, right? We all lie. We all do wrong things. And sometimes we make promises that we can't keep. All right? Now, the children of Israel are down here in Egypt. And they're in bondage. And the Lord sends Moses to them. And Moses is coming to tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And God works miracle after miracle after miracle, Teresa. And Pharaoh lets the people go. And they cross over the Red Sea. And they get on the other side and they make a promise to God. They say, you will be our God. We'll worship no other gods. You will forever be who we worship and thank for bringing us out of bondage. That worked for about 6 weeks. 6 weeks. They kept that promise. But after about 6 weeks, Moses went up on the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. And they decided they was going to take all their earrings and all the rings and make a golden calf, bow down and worship it, have a big drunken party, and worship that false god and say, you're who brought us out of Egypt. Let's say God wasn't too happy with that broken promise or that lie. A bunch of them died that day because of a broken promise. Now, Peter was one of the apostles, one of the disciples And before he slammed Peter, he's the dude that got out of the boat, walked on the water. Peter's the one that the Lord said, from now on, you'll be called the rock. You'll be called Peter. Upon this church, upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. Peter was the leader of the disciples. He was the one that Jesus said, who do people say I am? And Peter said, I say you're the Messiah. He knew who Jesus was. And it's coming up to the time that Jesus is going to be crucified. And he's washed their feet, and he's telling them that he's going to die, and that all of them will scatter. And Peter said, hey, they may all run, but I'll be with you. I promise you, I'll stick by you even in the death. But we see Peter warming next to the fire, don't we? Somebody said, you're from Galilee. You're a friend of Jesus. Not me. No. He lied, didn't he? He broke his promise. Lied and broke a promise. Now, after Jesus ascended to heaven, the Holy Spirit fell upon, and the new church was starting in Jerusalem. And there was a man there named Barnabas that owned all kinds of land. I mean, he had all kinds of land, David. And he took his land, and he sold it, and he brought that money and gave it to the disciples to feed the poor, to share among themselves. And all the people began to say, man, ain't Barnabas a good guy? And there was a man and woman there that heard that. Hey, ain't Barnabas a good guy? And they thought, they're bragging on him. We got a little piece of land here. We can sell, maybe he'll brag on us. But the problem was when they sold their land, they kept back part of the money. And they lied to God. And they died. There is a penalty for sin. And we all lie. We all do. And I want to talk to you today about the really foundation of the Christian faith, the Jewish faith, and the Muslim faith was Abraham. He was sort of the father of all of those. Mainly, we claim him as the father of the Jews. Because God said, get up out of this country over here, and I'm going to take you to a place you've never seen, and I'm going to give you this land, and you're going to be my people. His name is Abraham, and we're going to read the scripture here in Genesis. Abraham moved to the southern desert where he settled between Kadesh and Shur. Later he went to Gerar, and while there, here's the lie. He told everyone that his wife, Sarah, was his sister. So King Abimelech of Gerar had Sarah brought to him. But God come to Abimelech in a dream and said, you have taken a married woman, for this you will die. Abimelech said to the Lord, don't kill me, I haven't slept with Sarah. Didn't they say they were brother and sister? I am completely innocent. God spoke to Abimelech in another dream and said, I know you are innocent. That's why I kept you from sleeping with Sarah and doing anything wrong. Her husband is a prophet. Let her go back to him, and his prayers will save you from death. But if you don't return her, you and all your people will die. Okay. Let's think about why Abraham lied and why we lie. The first thing, Abraham was caught in a tight spot. He was between a rock and a hard place. Really. He was in a strange land. And he knew that his wife was beautiful. So it was real easy for Abraham to tell this lie. Real easy for him to. I personally don't know what he was thinking, but it was real easy for him to tell this lie. Because he was between a rock and a hard place. Now, if when I was working, if I would go out on the job, and the boss would say, I want you to do this and this and this, and I decided I wanted to sit around and chew the fat and not do anything, and I go back at lunch, he'd say, how's the job going? I couldn't hardly say I've done gabbed all day and I ain't done nothing, so I'm forced to lie. If I had went ahead and done my job, I wouldn't have been that rock and hard place. If Abraham had said, she's my wife, he wouldn't have been in that hard place. If Dot tells me, on the way home, stop and get a gallon of milk, and I completely forget it, get interested in something on the radio or something I want to do when I get home, and I come home with no milk, and she says, why didn't you get the milk? Now, the best thing for me just to say is, hey, I forgot it, or I just got tied up and didn't want to, instead of saying, you know, that store didn't have no milk. Come on, guys. But which one's the easiest for us to do? Hey, they run out of milk, right? Because I don't have to hear that fussing and a hollering, right? I remember one time, oh, am I going to get in trouble now? We were going to have gravy and biscuits. And I thought, wow, I ain't rode my motorcycle in a long time. I'm going to ride to the store and I'm going to get that sausage that I was supposed to get back. Well, that thing had sat there forever and it wouldn't start. You couldn't get the electric started. And I thought, well, I'll kick it. I kicked and it never did start. Well, I thought, well, there's a little hill down there. I'll run it down that hill and it'll start. I've done that about an hour and a half. Up and down, push it up down them hills. And it was summertime and I was hot and I was sick. And I got in the yard from all that pushing. I was ready to throw up. And here she goes, where's the sausage at? Needless to say, I couldn't say I'd been pushing that motorcycle up and down that hill all day. But we all lie and we all get in trouble. Maybe Abraham was, like I said, afraid that he was going to die. Maybe he was afraid that they was going to kill him for his wife. Maybe he just lacked confidence. I don't know why, but he told the lie. And because he told that lie, he was faced with some consequences of the lie, right? I think the first thing that happened is he destroyed his witness that he had with Abimelech. Because he had told Abimelech, hey, she's my sister. And they had found out that, hey, his wife. So now here he is. He's done destroyed his witness. And the Lord's done appeared to Abimelech and said, Abraham is going to pray for you. I bet he thought, huh? He ain't nothing but a liar, right? But God had him pray for him. Abimelech was saved. It cost him a lot of money. But because of that lie, the relationship between Abraham and Abimelech was destroyed, right? When we start telling lies, we're really destroying our relationships. And when I lie, when I tell a big tall tale, see now, this wasn't the first time Abraham had told this tale. He told this tale before. And he thought, I got away with that big lie back yonder. I'll tell the same one again. They will catch you. But the worst thing about telling them big tall tales is, you see, if Brian is my son, if he hears me telling a big tall tale, guess what? He's going to go tell that same big tall tale, ain't he? It's exactly what happened to Abraham, because Isaac told the same lie. And what we really do as Christians, we destroy our worth, our witness, what we're worth. Now, if I tell Ray all kinds of lies, Ray ain't going to have no confidence in listening to me preach. If I tell Miriam a big whopper, the next time I give an altar call, she's going to say, what's that clown doing? So it's very important that we tell the truth. It's very important that we keep our life right. Even if it hurts. And sometimes it hurts to tell the truth.
And then you've got to tell one lie to cover up another lie.
You'll tell two or three or four to cover up one. But if you tell the truth, it works out the best for me. But we can destroy our worth by telling lies. I'm going to tell one more tale here, and I don't know where David went. There he is. One time there was this guy, and he was walking down the street, and he seen this sign. This sign said, "Talking dog for sale." He said, "Talking dog?" He said, "That's hard to believe." So he went up there and knocked on the door and said, "You got a talking dog?" He said, "Yeah, that's that old black dog laying out there in the backyard." Well, he went out in the backyard, and there's this old big black dog laying. And he said, "Can you talk?" He said, "Sure, I can talk." He went, "Wow, talking dog." He said, "Well, tell me a little bit about yourself." He said, "Well, when I was young, I realized I had this special gift that I was a dog that could talk. And I went to the CIA, and they hired me, and you wouldn't believe I could go with all them spies, all them foreign governments, and they'd talk, and I'd come back and tell the CIA. I learned it all. I could do everything." Said I'd done that for years, but I got tired of all the flying around. Then I started working at the airport. I won all kinds of rewards from stopping hijackings and things. I really done good. So then I settled down, had a bunch of puppies. Now I'm here in this backyard. That guy said, "Well, that's amazing. That's amazing." He went up there and said, "How much you want for that talking dog?" He said, $10. He said, $10? That dog can talk. He said, "Yeah, but you can't believe a word he says. Everything he says is a lie. He ain't done none of that stuff." See, now here you have a talking dog, but he's a lying talking dog, so he ain't worth nothing. So if we're lying in our life, we ain't worth much, are we? So let's get a handle on telling them tall tales and little white lies. David, if you